Here we go.
Hi guys, welcome to another week here at Wired Differently. The universe decided to curse all of our technology this morning, so we are running a few minutes behind, but we are here for a very important topic this week. So I am Christina Blue Hooper, your resident business designer. We have with me Victoria Caldwell, your fractional COO and expert in people systems, and mindset Melanie Branch, the expert at helping entrepreneurs get their brains on board so we can do the things that we're trying to do, right? This is such an important topic. I love it. What to do when you're stuck in a rut. It is so important, in fact, that we got our first comment echoing the fact this is an important topic 30 minutes before the show even started. So you know it's good when it starts that way, right? So I am going to do like we normally do. We'll kind of go round table. What do you like? What do you want to say on this topic, Melanie? What lets you kick us off here?
I would like to say that when you're feeling stuck, you're missing challenges. A lot of us get stuck, especially as entrepreneurs, when we think that we have to perfect something before we can move on to the next thing. And that's not the case. All of my clients that are successful have multiple projects going at any point in time, because you never know what you're going to feel like working on when you wake up in the morning. If you spend 5 hours working on your website on a Monday, you can bet on Tuesday that your brain is not going to say, let's work on the website. Your brain's going to say, bitch, we just did that. Let us do something else. So when you're feeling stuck and like you don't know what the next step is, you got to seek out a challenge and look for, what's going to get me where I want to go? What would people tell me not to do? That's where I really go when people are stuck. I said, well, what do you think people wouldn't tell you to do? So do the weirdest thing first, and you'll typically see some results.
Do the weird thing first. That's like a writer downer. Do the weird thing first.
Got it.
I like that one. What about you, Victoria? What do you have to say on this topic?
I got an intruder coming. You're gonna wait until it's my turn to talk.
She is house sitting and cat sitting and watching Victoria be interrupted by a cat and get a little. She is the unruffled Victoria, right? Like you can't ruffle her for anything. But this cat, I was watching her in these calls yesterday, and this cat is ruffling the unruffable. So it's amusing to watch as we go through the show today. So enjoy.
We've been having powwows. It's like, okay, Victoria's like, my turn to stop. So now this is what you do.
For those of us that live with cats, I have 4. We know Victoria's not used to living with cats, so it is hilarious to watch.
I don't live with animals. Okay, and so this one is, he's lucky he's pretty.
Yeah. It's a boy cat too. Boy cats are they're the best. They're like, hello, I see you're active and awake. I like to be petted when people are active and awake. How about I come over here and hang out with you? Yeah,
exactly. He wants all of this attention, and I got things to do. And he's like, well,
yeah, you got 2 hands.
Yeah, I'm just gonna sit on the keyboard until you decide that I'm more important than anything else you got going on in your life right now.
Yeah.
That's what it's been. I'm like, if you were just a little bit uglier, this would not.
So when you're stuck in a rut, go house sit a cat.
Yeah.
That's the weird thing you can go do. Go house sit a cat. Yeah.
Stir it up.
Get a cat. But see, now I got to remember what I was going to say. Anywho, now if I'm stuck, one thing I like to do, and this wasn't always the case, I pause. I pause for a bit. It could be a day that I just take that day out and take care of myself and sit back and reflect, sit in those feelings, try to identify where they're coming from. Sometimes it's hormonal. Sometimes it's something going on that I just need to, if it's hormonal and I know it and I can recognize that, then I know I can ride the wave and take care of myself and, give myself positive self-talk. This is more, Melanie stuff. But if it's because there's a business problem that I can't figure out, I always talk to somebody, because it's like, soon as you start bringing it up, you realize that all of a sudden things start coming to you people start coming with that are also dealing with the same challenges. I know one person that I follow, they say, and I haven't really tried this yet, but put the problem on a sticky note before you go to bed and look at it. And then the way he explains it is tell your brain to work on this overnight.
Yeah.
And your subconscious mind will work on it. And so the combination of those two things, because I have gone to bed like that. I hadn't done it intentionally like that, but I've gone to bed like that and woken up like, that's what we're going to do. I have the solution, or it comes throughout the course of the day, but I have to pause and slow my brain down to allow that to happen, or else you just get in this, and then you just start doing stuff, and the stuff creates more stress and anxiety, and then it becomes a vicious cycle. So I like to slow down, pause, and just sit.
I like that.
Personally.
I am like literally sitting here trying to think if there has ever been a time that I felt stuck in a rut, and I don't know that I can really think of one. The closest that I can think of is essentially the where I'm supposed, like where I am has not caught up to where I'm supposed to be. There's like a routine that's no longer serving me anymore. There's something about my day-to-day life that is no longer serving me anymore. And it's time for a change in something, like maybe it's that we've been eating the same foods for a really long time because I just haven't had the energy to think about, new recipes or going to different new grocery stores or trying something different, right? So we kind of feel a little bit like we've gotten too comfortable with the routines that we're currently doing, and it's time to shake things up just a scooch. So I think for me, there's routines that are no longer serving me, and where I'm supposed to be is not where I am. Is kind of the closest that I've ever felt to feeling a little bit stuck. And so I usually just start troubleshooting for that, right? Like, how do I troubleshoot for what it is that I'm feeling like has become very repetitive, has become very boring, has become not what I wanted for my life, and it kind of snuck up on me without me realizing it. You know what I mean? Like, we're diving into a lot of convenient foods because I haven't felt like doing a lot of cooking, right? So that's not serving me anymore. It's starting to be out of alignment with how I want to feel. So let's make some more healthy choices. Let's incorporate some more healthy meals. So, I mean, to me, it's more just trying to find a way to break out of the current routine that isn't really serving what I want anymore.
And sometimes it takes that. Sometimes it takes that to see it. Like 3 days ago, I ordered 3 different bags of chips from DoorDash. Very premenstrual. We've all been there. And I took a chip out of each bag, and I was like, I really remember these being better. And then I said to myself, I was like, well, you don't eat this kind of shit anymore. Like, you don't eat junk anymore. Like, the worst I do is go down to Wits every night and get ice cream, but they make that fresh right there, right? So, looking at the ingredients of your food too, and your actions, your habitual actions, it's easy to get stuck into a rut of like, okay, we have spaghetti with meat sauce on Monday night, and Tuesday is a fend for yourself and that sort of stuff. And once you get there, burnout's right around the corner. You got to be careful treading that line between boredom and burnout.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And this word comes up, and how we define rut. When you said that, Christina and Melanie, about boredom, when it comes to the business and it's a routine, let's say it's a routine that's working, because remember, we need to make our business boring, and we have to be careful not to use your boredom as an excuse to change things around in the business. I mean, if things aren't working, but if they're working and it's working for the team, your boredom is not necessarily a rut. You're just bored.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
and
yes.
That's probably the bane of my existence when I'm working with clients, is because it can be working flawlessly and as it should be. And then it's like, you know what? Well, this is boring now. Let me do something to shake it up a little bit. And now you've literally, because I was telling a colleague the other day, a friend, I said, boredom equals breaking of business.
Blow it up. Do something else.
Yeah. Boredom equals breaking of business. So, and she just fell out laughing because I got on my soapbox with her. And it's like, yeah. So if that rut is boredom and you have a tendency to want to shake things up in the business because you're bored
Yeah.
and you're
Oh,
wondering how
that's
that's
good.
going to deal with the team, routine, yeah, and things working like a well-oiled machine is going to be boring to you. So,
Yeah. Same thing inside your house. I mean, that's when you tend to pick fights with the people that you live with. That's when you tend to rearrange things in ways you don't need to, right? Whenever you're feeling bored, you sabotage things because you need to shake it up.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yes. That's such a good point. And that's usually like when
You
I'm doing
know,
business
because
design with people, like I'm trying to find where they get their fun from and trying to make sure we can incorporate that in some way that doesn't break the business. Like the academy is one of the ways that we do that for me because I like to create and I like to build things all of the time. Like I'm constantly inspired to make new templates or things to make people's lives
Hold on.
easier, courses.
You like to ideate new ideas. I like to see them through.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like I used to do this with whole businesses. I would ideate an idea and then launch an entire business and sabotage my existing businesses and everything that was going on. So it's like I needed to design something that gives me freedom to create in a way that's helpful to my clients and prevents me from harming the business. And
Yeah.
inside the academy, we can do that. That's why the membership is like all inclusive. We're not like pushing you into more tiers all the time. It's like I just want it like this will help you here. And I like doing this and putting it into there, right? So baking that kind of stuff into our businesses where we have a safe space to not get bored that won't hurt the business is incredibly important. Oh, I love this. Yeah. Katina
and we have
commented
to constantly
neurodivergent
be reminded of
ventures.
this.
Yes, we do. I say this to people all the time that your business has to get boring to succeed, but it's hard to live in your day to day. You need good partners and mentors that will constantly smack it back into your head when you forget. Yeah. And this is from Katina. Reviewing routines really helps. Sometimes it's small changes that can help me get back into big spaces. Like, oh, yes.
Yeah.
Small changes open big doors, right? Like, oh, and they're like, there's like a famous quote or something to that saying that like small something, big doors.
This is also why it's important in the business sense to have a second in command that will keep you from killing every good thing you've created, you know.
Yeah.
Because I'm always amazed at how powerful boredom is for a creator.
Yeah.
Like I'm still constant. I mean, you're like, what is it like not to get bored? But I'm like, you will literally sabotage an entire successful business just because you're bored.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, yeah, I know it's making money. Yeah, I know we got people to pay, but I'm bored.
Yeah.
Yes,
And we
I
don't
know
realize that that's the thing. You know, it's like you don't realize that it's a symptom of boredom. Like I still remember one of the first times me and Melanie were sitting here body doubling together and she just stops for a second. She's like, am I hungry or am I bored? And I'm like, that's an accurate question that I have never once considered.
Yeah. That was actually thanks to my dead mom and being a millennial. My mom used to really call me out on this shit because I would like go seeking dopamine in a crunchy something and she'd be like, have an apple. I'm like, I don't want an apple. And she's like, if you were hungry enough, you would eat an apple, go somewhere else. I'm like, damn, all right, you're right. And then I'd probably get on my rollerblades and get out of that house and steal cigarettes from them and go smoke them at 14. But whatever, it was a different time. So yeah, like really checking in with yourself. Victoria said it earlier with the positive self-speak. If you can turn your inner critic into your inner cheerleader, you'll never have to worry about being stuck again. You'll never have to worry about being bored again. You'll never have to worry about making the wrong decision because we're just sitting here beating ourselves up all the time, right? It was a couple of years ago. I was rushing, trying to get out of the house for whatever reason, no reason. And I stubbed my toe so bad turning the corner into my kitchen. And it was painful. And instead of saying, are you okay? I started cussing myself out. And in that moment, I just went, hold on. Why am I talking to myself like this? I am going to be here for the rest of my life. I'm going to have this girl forever. Why am I rushing? Why am I cussing myself out? And in that moment, I was like, we're not doing this anymore. And, you know, we have, especially with ADHD, we have that internal flame of like, you gotta go, there's somewhere you have to be. And there's really not. There's really not. So like, if you can get that positive self-speak to be your regular everyday routine, then you can roll with the punches and be fine with whatever happens, whether it's, you know, somebody in your family messaging you at 7 a.m. with wild, weird shit happening. And you're like, what's going on? It's not going to throw you off because you're cool. You're cool with yourself.
Right. Yeah. I like that. You know, I'm going to be with me for the rest of my life.
Hopefully.
The guaranteed relationship.
Seems kind of scary if you're not. Like, I don't know what the
alternative
like
look like.
But
if you don't like you, and if you're going to talk crap to you every day, who wants to be around that?
Yeah, I don't.
I don't.
We have a question. Essential steps to get out of a slump or rut. Oh,
Rue is already doing it. Listen, that girl is at the Neuro-Spicy Academy. That girl is in my free group on Instagram, the 2 Pics a Day group for entrepreneurs who want to make better content that actually converts. And she came back into that group the other day and said, hey guys, I've been really hard on myself. I've been kind of out, but I'm coming back to myself and I'm happy to be back in the group. That's the first step to getting out of a rut, is to be like, whoa, you know, stick your head out of the hole for a minute, see if the fire is gone, right? There's a Native American book that you have to read in like 3rd grade here in Florida. And it's this girl who gets separated from her tribe. And wildfire happens in the Everglades of Florida. And she's probably 10 years old and she knows to hide in a cave or do this thing, la, 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 la. And then the whole story is her coming out of it and having to figure out if the ground is cool enough to walk on, and, you know, seeing what fires actually do to the environment and having to get back to her place. And that's really what happens when shit starts going haywire. You duck and cover, and then you deal with being there for a little bit. And then you have to figure out, you know, is the ground cool enough to walk on yet?
Yeah. So, I mean, step 1 obviously is recognize that you're in a slump, right? So that we need to take some kind of action to get out of it, which means we have to compare that against a couple different things, right? Are we in a slump? Are we bored? Are we in burnout? Do we need this time down, right? Because sometimes we need the downtime. Right. You're not actually in a slump. You are in a period of recovery and healing and recharging. Like Melanie used to say, like, it's like, you got to recharge your phone, right? Your burned out iPhone, you need to recharge sometimes. So knowing if you're in a slump or not, obviously, is step 1, recognizing that this is truly a slump. I think 2 is like, and we talk about this, I literally have a lead magnet on my website about this, on how to bridge the gap, right? From where we are to where we want to be. Like I was saying earlier, if we're in a slump or rut, we're not where we want to be. Okay. There's something where we're at and where we want to be are not in alignment. So like step 1 to figuring that out is, where do I want to be? And where am I now? And identifying those 2 points clearly, right? Because it's like, if we don't know that, how in the heck are we supposed to plot a path from A to B if we don't know what A and B are? So that's kind of, to me, that's the next step that you have to do. So that's step 2 on getting out of a rut. Step 3 is plotting that path, right? What steps can we take given that this is A and that is B and I want to get to B, right? What are the steps I can take? What does that look like for me? So that way you can start seeking out the support, the resources, the mentors, the cheerleaders, that whatever it is that are needed to help you walk that path, right? Because most of the time we're not going to walk that on our own.
No.
If we were going to, we already would have. You know what I mean? Like there's something
that's why
that
I
we
said
need.
to reach out, because you realize that, like you said, Christina, if you had it figured out, you would have already done it, most likely. Especially as entrepreneurs, it's like work. But there's no pause. There's no just time to just sit and just reflect and
enjoy.
Enjoy the process. But what I like to do is say, okay, if the rut is described as, you know, you're in a business rut or you're in a family rut or something is going on, I'm like, I always think, what is this teaching me? What's the opportunity here? What's my opportunity for growth here? How can this support me in being a better version of myself? Because it's part of the story that maybe you have to figure it out and go through it so you can help somebody else or whatever. But it gives you opportunities to grow.
Yeah.
I don't know,
And
for
if
me,
you're
I have
growth
to slow
minded,
down.
Yeah.
yeah,
Like, that's a big part for me, because normally if I'm stuck in a rut and I'm at A looking at B, I want to get to B as fast as I can, because A is painful. I don't like where A is.
Yeah.
And so I have this tendency to want to push and to rush and I know Melanie's going to be like, as soon as I say this, every time I have slowed down and let it happen when it's supposed to happen, we end up having this little moment where we're celebrating for a second. And Melanie's like, see, it wasn't ready yet. The universe wasn't ready for that yet. It's time now. Every time I think, man, I should have done this sooner. I should have gotten here faster. Why didn't I think to do this sooner? Why did I wait this long? Why did I don't? Whenever I finally get to the other side, I'm like, okay, now I get why I couldn't have done that a few months ago or a few weeks ago or a few years ago. Like, now is when it needed to happen. So taking it slower, trying in some ways to be less efficient, because I am like very efficient in my brain, right? Like even something as simple as if I'm walking from one room to the next, like figuring out a way to precariously carry everything across to the next room so I don't have to make 2 trips. You know,
we ain't no 2-trip bitch.
Exactly, right? So I'm always trying to think about how to make things efficient, and most of the time when I do that, I'm actually making it less efficient.
Yeah.
right. Remember,
I'm adding
always
more
say
steps,
sometimes we
and
got
I
to
just
slow
don't
down
start.
to speed up.
Yeah.
Slow down,
Right.
put the systems in place, put the processes in place. Like me, I'm the type of person who likes to spend the time up front. Like with my team, I will spend all of this time, and I enjoy it. So, that's important. Spend the time up front and then watch them fly, and then I can go do other stuff.
Yeah.
But if I don't lay that foundation and I don't do that, then I'm constantly back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I'm babysitting at a certain point,
Yeah.
and I would rather teach you, get you trained, spend a lot of time with you, give you that intention. And then later I'm good. I can move on to something else. And then if you need something, I could support you in getting it done. But it's speed, because most people are dealing with somebody for 6 months or a year, and they're not performing, but they're having to figure everything out, read your mind at the same time, try to keep up with your brain. And then a year later, you're like, oh, this person is not working. Let's get another person, same thing. Let's get another person, same thing. And you're like, dang, I can't find right people. But it's like, maybe, but maybe not. So it's that slowing down in the beginning. You might have them up to speed in 3 to 6 months, and boom, you can go off, and then they can do better than you would do at it.
Yeah. I queued this question up because it's kind of related to what we're talking about, because we're saying like one of the best ways to get where you want to go, to get out of that rut, get from A to B, is to slow down. But one of the biggest challenges with slowing down is staying motivated, right? So this question is a really good one. Like, how do we stay motivated when progress feels slow? Go for it, Melanie.
Let's remember that motivation is not the thing that gets stuff done, especially if you're neurodivergent and you are low on dopamine. Momentum gets shit done. And who is it that talks about this? Mel Robbins. She's got some content out there right now that is a woman after my own heart, and not because we have the same name. She is like, if you are waiting for the motivation to kick in to get something done, or like if you're going to let your mood dictate your actions, you're never going to get where you want to go. You're never going to get where you want to go. It doesn't happen that way. I don't wake up. I've been a mindset coach since 2020. I've been actively working on my mindset since 2018. And I got voted the second most negative person at the restaurant that I worked at that had over 200 employees. Ugh, it was terrible.
Who did you lose
but like
to?
really taking a look at, oh my God. I said, who's number one? And he said, Gina. And I went, I got to make some changes because that bitch is awful. Anyways, I hope she's doing well. I hope everybody there is doing well, but just not in my world. If you think about motivation as your goal, right? I'm a goal-oriented person, always have been. I want to have a successful marriage, so I'm going to do everything I can in my relationship to make sure that he has what he needs, I have what I need. I'm going to do everything that I can in my business to make sure that my clients have what they need, my team has what they need. And I'm going to do everything for these damn dogs. I make their food every 3 days because they're getting old and I work from home and I want my crew to be here for as long as possible, right? So really, if your motivation is waning and it's going too slow according to what? Whose timeline? And just because it's slow doesn't mean that you're not making progress.
No.
So that's what I
Right,
think.
Yeah.
exactly. I spoke with a prospect the other day, and I was talking about consistency, like attaching yourself to the consistency and the discipline versus the outcome. Of course, you set the goals, you put a plan in place, you work the plan, but understand as long as you're making progress, as long as you're staying consistent, it's going to happen. Something is going to happen eventually, right? And she was telling me how she
Yeah.
had some injury and she did these exercises every day, and she didn't feel any different for a year. It was like at the 1.5 year mark that she could finally do something, and it just one day it just loosened up or something. But
Happened.
she did those exercises every day for a 1.5 years. Her body was responding. She just didn't notice it. She was really building whatever she
Yeah.
needed to build. And I was thinking, a 1.5 years?
Yeah.
How many people would have given up? Me, probably, for
Yep.
sure, not seeing anything because it's a physical thing. I'm doing this every day. It's not working. It's not working. It's not working. And it was
Yeah.
working. She just didn't see the manifestation. And just like posting on social and all of that stuff, sometimes, influencers, sometimes are building their audiences for 2 years or more before you start to notice them. They started with no one.
Yeah.
And then when you notice, you're like, how did you get all of these followers? You're not seeing, like, you're seeing the mountain tops, but you're not seeing the valley lows.
Mm.
So we have to realize that even the ones that we're admiring now, they didn't just come out of the blue like that. They had to learn some things. They had to see what was working, what was not. They had to be consistent. They have their highs and the lows, but they stuck with the process. And then eventually
Yeah.
saw the results that you're gleaning over. So yeah.
Yeah.
I love how it's like in this phrase where it's like, how do I stay motivated when progress feels slow? Most people would attach to that motivation aspect as like how do we get the motivation in? I want you guys to notice both of my brilliant business partners here attached to the slow part of that. Slow according to who?
Yeah.
Slow according to what metric you have seen, right? Because most of the time what we're
Yeah.
seeing is we're seeing somebody talk about the success that they achieved when it was wild and unpredictable. And like, I made a video, I went viral, I went over time, blah, 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 blah. And we
Right.
think it should happen that fast. Or we're hearing this like timeline of how somebody got from A to B. And we feel like this low point in their story happened pretty fast because they just like zoomed past it pretty quickly into the success. Slow according to who, right? Like we were just talking about this yesterday in the blueprint workshop that I do. And people don't really realize how long things take, right? It can take pretty consistently 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, 18 months for marketing to start working. Right. For marketing to start working, not even to work effectively, but just to start working, where you put content out, people engage with said content and ultimately end up buying from you, right? That's what, when we say marketing working, we're hoping we put something out saying, buy this, and somebody does. For most people, the average is about 12 to 18 months of consistently putting out content, consistently trying to get people to pay attention to you before that actually happens. So it's like when we're setting this yardstick of what is slow, we need to understand real data, right? Like people get upset when they do sales calls and people don't buy. The average close rate for a sales call in a professional service-based industry is around 20%. Less sometimes. That's with warm leads. Yeah. If you're good at sales and you have good marketing and you have good warm leads coming in that know who you are and are interested in buying, the close rate's 20%. You know what I mean? Like that's 2 out of 10 people you can sell. That's 8 calls you weren't able to sell. So if you feel like this is happening slower than it should, understand what the real metrics actually are that you're your measure sticking around. So I love that we all kind of had something to say on that, for one. And yeah, absolutely. Motivation is not the thing that gets you going. Motivation is the thing that comes after you're starting to get results. After you're like, I like that. Think about weight loss, right? You don't get motivated to eat better, eat less, move more until the scale starts going down. The motivation isn't what got you to do the
till
things
those
that made
pants
the
start
scale
fitting different. Yeah. And then you're like, oh, okay. Yeah.
This is working.
First time you put on those, like, you know, your fat pants and they're like, I could put another human in here, right? That's when the motivation happens. It doesn't happen before. I love that. Now let's talk about.
I like to remind people. Oh,
go for it.
I just like to remind people that Lady Gaga used to be Stephanie Germanotti, and she believed that she was Lady Gaga when she was in high school, and people were like, you're dumb. That's not going to happen. And now look at her. You have to see it and believe it before anybody else is going to, and you have to act like that bitch before you become her.
Yeah.
I love some of the comments we've got going.
I was an overnight success after 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Overnight
Look
success.
Charlie XCX.
Yeah, and people don't talk about it until after they've had that, right? Too. So that's something we have to keep in mind. We're watching people talk about their success online. They don't talk about it until after.
After they figured it out and they got it right.
Now they're sharing the story of the failure. So all the people that are failing right alongside you right now, they're not sharing it, right? You're not alone. There are other people struggle busting too. We've had some good comments come in. Rue's over here. Motivation is garbage. Yes, 100%. Katina, sometimes the exercise for mind and body takes time, and then suddenly you see and feel the results. It takes work and it's worth it.
Yes.
And she's also saying, I post on social and most of my clients don't or haven't ever interacted with my content. So while engagement helps the algorithm, it's not everything for me. It's about being there when my client is ready. That's the point, right? I think Google had, and we talked about this yesterday in my workshop too. It's like 7 different touch points or 7 hours on 11 different things or something to that effect.
7 hours of content, 11 touch points for social channels.
There you go. So like Google has done some research to figure out, you know, like how many touch points, how much 7 hours of content they have to consume. Most of us are putting out like 1 minute, 2 minute videos. Can you imagine? 4 different social channels, 7 hours of content. Like it takes a minute because people don't just come in and be like, I want to buy. Yeah.
11 touch points. How many?
It's like a relationship.
1 or 2. And you're like, wait, why didn't they buy? 11. And that's from Google.
So. You don't meet it's just like dating. You don't meet somebody and then say, hey, this was a nice coffee date. Do you want to go on a 3-week vacation with me? Right? That's not acceptable. So you can't expect that. You can't, especially if you're in high ticket sales or in coaching. I'm not going to expect to meet somebody and then she sees 2 of my videos and we go on a call and she's like, yep, here's $10,000. I don't expect that from somebody, and I don't want to work with somebody who's going to do that because I work with neurodivergent people. Impulsivity is not the problem. In fact, I have to slow people down a lot of the time. But you really have to think about, you know, the social media aspect. You're building a community and you're leading that community. So you have to lead by example. You have to model the behavior you expect, and you have to show up consistently. And everybody hates it when I say this, but if you cannot be consistent with a self-care practice, with posting on social media, with whatever it is, you do not have, you're not a flake. You just don't love yourself enough to believe that you deserve the thing that you're going for. You don't believe that you deserve to feel fabulous. You don't deserve that you feel to hit the 50K months or whatever it is. So we got to work on that first. And Christina, you mentioned the word discipline. And self-discipline becomes possible when you realize that it is simply self-love. That's all self-discipline is. That's all it is. It's not trying to take shit away from you. It's trying to pull you closer to yourself and make you the most successful version of yourself. All those people you look up to that run their own businesses, have huge communities, all that sort of stuff, they value themselves and they take care of themselves, and they're not going to schedule something during their morning routine or during their nighttime routine, all that sort of stuff, because they know that if they lose that, then they can't do all the things that they want to do.
That just landed so.
Sorry, soapbox. I'll get down.
I was like, oh, she got on her soapbox for that was, but that soapbox was that landed. in all of the
Yeah.
places.
Well, and
me.
it's like
Yeah.
she's psychic or
Yeah.
something and kind of knows what my next question I was about to queue up is, right? Because it's like, and the other thing is there's some reasons you're stuck in a rut. There's some things where it's like, I know I'm stuck. I've done the things. I've looked at A, I've looked at B, I've tried to make a map. I've got people cheering me on, but I still can't walk, right? I still am not taking
Yeah.
steps. One of the reasons I could still be not taking steps is I'm afraid of B. For some reason, I'm afraid, like I want B, but there's something stopping me. So like, I'm going to throw Melanie in on this one again as our mindset expert here. Fear of failure.
Before you start, because I want you to comment on it. Yeah, because I want Melanie's feedback. It took me a long time to figure out what was holding me back. And I realized I was afraid of what I thought I wanted. Why? I was like, oh my gosh, I'm afraid, because it's the thing is, it wasn't a lack of knowing that I could achieve it. I believed I could achieve it. It was like, what is the life gonna be like once it gets there? And I was afraid of the success. So I found subconscious.
I'm a firm believer that
it's craziest thing, but I had to sit there and I thought about it, and I'm like, oh, it was so subconscious. It came out, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the problem. So now, selfish.
Hop back up on that soapbox.
It's not really,
we just let you down for a breath, but it's time to get back again.
Thank you. I stretched. I'm ready. Okay. It's not really failure that you're afraid of. And I can tell you why it's not failure you're afraid of. When I was in kindergarten and I was on my bike to school or to my bus stop every day, and then on my bike home, I had to go over this big bridge in my neighborhood, right? Think very affluent Naples, Florida community, Guard Gate. That's where I grew up. And I was always afraid of falling off my bike. And then I took a huge tumble. I went down the hill, boom, 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 head over feet, that sort of thing, skinned the shit out of my knee. Huge welt on my knee. And I remember it affected me for the next couple of weeks. It's like, oh, I can't wear my jeans because they're going to be on the scab, or like, oh, this is really itchy. This is uncomfortable, or oh, this is painful. But I got through it. So I was never afraid of taking a tumble on my bike because I now had that experience. And it's the same thing with failure. Once you failed before, you know that you can just get right back on your bike and figure it out, and you're smart. What you're really afraid of is the success, because your nervous system has never experienced. If your goal is $1 million a year and you've never experienced that, your nervous system is going to reject every opportunity to make it happen because it's unfamiliar. So instead of thinking about, oh, I'm afraid of failing and what if this idea doesn't take off, just start getting accustomed to, a life where you have an assistant. Start getting accustomed to the fact that you're not going to be spending time with people that make you feel like shit about yourself, right? Like really just start acting like that. And the success, your nervous system will be like, oh, feeling peaceful isn't boring. This is actually really nice. But I was raised in a house that was always on fire. So I'm used to, having to look out for a crisis. And when you've gone a couple of weeks, a couple of months without a crisis, don't go looking for one. This is actually what you want.
Yeah,
that's all.
Yeah,
it's just fear of success.
I realized for me, it was the fear of success. And I was like, and this was, by the way, this was about 2 months ago, less than 2 months ago when this clicked. So there you go.
Wow. Oh, yeah.
And helping other people.
Yeah. Katina said.
Me?
Oh, I'll put it.
Yeah. Katina just said she realized that this is what happened. We were coaching together. I was coaching her, and something really cool happened. She got a really good, I don't know if it was a podcast, whatever it was a really cool thing. And we were getting off the call and she was like, oh my God, I'm so anxious. And I was like, are you anxious or are you excited? And we were able to walk through the fact that her big emotions when she was younger scared the caretakers that were supposed to teach her how to harness it and how to use it. And so she was fearful of her excitement because it was too much and she didn't know how to handle it. So we actually developed strategies that she can still pull on to this day that help her channel all that energy and make the most of it at the same time, right? So instead of being like, oh my God, I'm worried. No, you're not. You're super stoked. Go for a hike. Like get out of the house, go move your body, and you're going to do really, really well. And that's when she was like, holy shit, all this time I've been excited. And I was telling myself that I was anxious.
Anxious. Because the body, it manifests in the body the same way. You don't know. One is just negative thought, like expecting the worst, and one is like being excited about the bit. But neurologically, what I've learned is that the response in the body is the same. It's how you
kind of like when you drink too much coffee. Like I didn't realize that too much caffeine made me more anxious and nervous in a day, right? Like whenever that coffee would kick in, and I'd be like, man, I'm just feeling like I didn't attribute it to the caffeine. I attributed it to whatever was going on. Right. Like, oh, that email is just making me anxious, or that, this thing is making me, I didn't realize it was just caffeine. Right. Same kind of concept.
Yeah.
Same concept. Right. Exact same one. I love this. I love the comments that are coming in too. Rue is like, peace feels boring. Yes, it does. Peace feels boring. So when we achieve a state of peace, we are generally bored, which means you have to find comfort with moving slower. You have to just find your peace in being slower. That way, when it happens, you can. Yeah, but you're different. That's why we need you around. Right?
Yeah, I'm like, whoo.
You bring that calm energy.
Got some peace in my life, and I'm like, oh, this is possible.
But also, anytime we used to find peace, somebody would come fuck it up right away. So you have to reprogram that part of your nervous system. It's like the saying, waiting for the other shoe to drop. I've dealt with that with so many of my clients. We're like, but if something starts going really well, something's got to come in to balance it out and make it go bad. And that's not true.
Yeah.
It can all be good, but you have to protect your peace for that to happen.
Yeah.
Oh, and the flip will happen too, where it's like you've got a bunch of bad things going on, and you're like, it can't stay like this it's got to get better soon, right? And it's not a balancing act. It's not like there's this cosmic scale being like, if we've got too much good, we have to bring in the bad. If we got too much bad, we have to bring in the good.
Yeah.
The bad can last for a very long time, but so can the good.
Yeah.
Right. So can if we let it, right? If we say that this will, like, if you are, road rage is a perfect example. I used to be very road ragey, right? When I was driving around, drove me crazy. And then I was just like, one day, like, really, it happened after I started teaching my kids to drive, because now I'm seeing every other car being like, that could just be my kid learning to drive, because my kid's frustrating somebody else right now. I guarantee you. They're driving too slow. They're trying to figure out how to stay in the road. They're taking all the curves at like granny speed, or trying to pretend like they're a NASCAR racer, depending on which kid it was. So now I'm driving down the road and I'm thinking that could be some kid learning how to drive. I don't know who this is. So like, I just started dropping the road rage. My drive is not any different. I'm still driving to the same place. I'm still encountering other humans on the road. Nothing else has changed except my mindset towards the other drivers on the road. I'm not assuming they're idiots that are out to sabotage my day anymore. I'm just assuming they don't even know that I exist, and they're just doing dumb stuff.
Yeah.
And there's nothing I can do about that. And now I just take so like my drives are much more pleasant because I decided I wanted them to be. That was it.
Yeah.
That was the only thing that changed. Right. So it's like, if you're having days where everything just feels crappy and the whole world's out to get you, maybe just stop thinking the whole world's out to get you, and that this day was made for me, good and bad. And it's amazing what that does. Melanie taught me this. I did not become this enlightened. I was not saying these things 2 years ago, just so we know. Right.
Thank you,
like,
Melanie. You're making it easier.
Melanie got me ready for you.
Yeah.
Right. So,
thank you. I'm forever grateful.
Katina's got a good point that Melanie taught her too. Like, sometimes you need to stop when something good happens. You have to just stop for a second. You just have to. And I did this the other day. I finished a big, complicated project for a client, and I stopped after that. I was like, I got done early, way earlier in the day than I thought I would. Right, like I was done at like 3 o'clock. I thought this was going to take me to like late at night, and it was like it's like 3 o'clock, and I'm like, I did it. And I'm going to go do anything not work right now because I'm going to just enjoy this. We're going to go party for a minute. We're going to go watch some Luffy. We're going to go like good times. Right. And just stop and enjoy it. And it really does. Yeah. It makes it feel so much better. Another, you gave me an idea. I thought work
celebrating is a skill.
And really, I wasn't supporting myself. I had control the whole time. Oh, yes. Yeah. Yes. Oh, I love this. Is such a good topic. We knew this was going to be good going in, but this is such a good topic. All right, so
Yeah.
let's talk about the other
Yeah.
reason we can be stuck in a rut, right? Because we've talked about like fear of failure holding you back and keeping you, which is really kind of fear of success, fear of the unknown, fear of the uncomfortable, fear of the I haven't done that yet. So we've talked about that. We've talked about, motivation and feeling slow. We've talked about how to figure out where you're trying to go to get out of a rut. But one of the other things could be I just don't know what to do. I'm out of ideas. Like I know I'm not comfortable in A, but I have no idea what B even needs to look like. I don't even know what B is, or maybe I have some inkling, but it's not clear enough, or I don't know how to start. I'm stuck because I'm out of ideas. So I know, like, I'll share my biggest one. Talk to humans.
Okay.
There's mine.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, and that's what I was going to say to talk. And I guess because I'm such an extrovert, I'm amazed at how many times I have to say this. Talk to people, especially the people who are paying you. They will give you the ideas. They will give you the ideas. And like, when I'm working, because I work with creatives, I haven't yet to find one who ran out of ideas, but let's see. This is the thing for other. And I don't worry about if I'm going to get stuck, because I know if I get stuck in the execution and all of that side, I know I got somebody that got 3 million ideas waiting, and I can say, nope, no, that one. That's the one we're going to go with. And I go on my day.
Yeah.
And I go on about my day, but I have to talk to the person that I know is going to have a ton of ideas. If you run out of ideas, talk to a creative person. And I'm going to tell you, you're going to get more ideas than you can shake a stick at.
Yeah, I have yet to meet somebody that doesn't have an opinion. If you ask somebody, hey, what do you think about X, right? Everybody has an opinion. Everybody and their brother has an opinion. So you go ask your mentors, you go ask people in your mastermind groups, you ask the internet in general, you survey your communities, you book calls with your target clients to check in. Clients you did work for 6 months ago, 9 months ago, like they haven't been a client of yours for a year. Go talk to them, check in, see how they're doing, right? Talking to humans is one of the best ways to do it. But I feel like Victoria brought up another good point, and I want to hand Melanie back her soapbox for just half a second. Creators do have a crap ton of ideas. So sometimes when we're talking about fresh ideas, it's like I have thousands. I don't know which one to pick. I have no idea which ideas to pluck, which ones to trash. And I just don't really like any of the ideas that my brain is throwing at me. Melanie, grab your soapbox because you're battling with your brain, right? Again, on ideas.
You guys both said to go talk to people. And I think if you're running out of ideas or you need clarity on something, then your creativity has run out because you're not taking good enough care of yourself. So I would tell you to call it a bed day, throw on a new show, right? I've been watching some new real estate shows on Netflix. Holy shit. I'm in love with these. If you haven't watched Owning Manhattan yet, please watch it. I'm already watching it for the third time. Because, I love to watch people who are ambitious and, are going after something and they have big, gigantic goals, because I have big, gigantic goals. And you'll watch a show and you'll rest without screaming at yourself internally for resting, because then it's not really resting. So you have to actually be resting. And you can order some DoorDash or some Grubhub or make your favorite snack, whatever it is. And you'll get an idea because your brain is now in the circuit of stuff being implanted, and you being like, oh, well, that's a really good idea. I could show you half the notes on my phone are from watching a show and getting an idea and just being like, hold on. And I make the screen get real, because I only watch on my phone. I don't like TVs. And so I just make the show keep playing on the little box, and I'm typing in all these little notes on my phone. Never, ever am I watching a show and I don't get an idea. Ever. It's always a great way to do it, because self-care is the thing that protects your creative juice. If you're losing your creative juice, it's because you're not taking care of yourself.
Yeah. And you're probably just burnt out and being out of flow. Let me say this.
Yeah.
Being out of flow.
Pass that soapbox over here to Victoria.
And you said it and it triggered the thought, which is why I try to keep my team and my clients in flow, because even as a creator, if you're if you're spending so much time, and this goes for the team, it goes for you, it goes for everyone. If you're spending most of your time on things that take you out of your flow state, that's that state that just lights you up, and where all of that creativity and that energy happens, your ideas are going to become less innovative. They just are, because now
The sun
you're
is
so
out.
now. Oh, over there, maybe.
It's
Sorry,
been
I haven't seen
raining
the
for
sun
a lot.
in days. I'm in Florida.
It's
We
been
haven't seen the sun in like 10 days. Oh my God.
but it's going
Okay,
to take
sorry.
you out of flow, and imagine what that does to you, but also with the team. That's why it's so important to get yourself in flow and the team in flow, because if they're out of flow too, that means productivity goes down, and you're paying for lower productivity. And not only that, you're suffering, everyone is suffering, and just getting yourself in flow and staying in flow most of the time is going to be critical.
Yeah. And your business should be designed to allow you to clock out. So that's my soapbox, is if your business isn't allowing you downtime, you need to rethink how your business is designed, right? The products and services that you're selling, the commitments that you're making, the time and energy you're putting into marketing and sales and things along those lines. There is something in your business that is too time consuming, too draining, and you need to take it away. We need to reinvent it. We need to redesign it in some way, shape, form, or fashion to allow you downtime. Like, it blew some of my members' minds in the cohort that I'm doing with the workshop when I was showing them one of the clients we'd recently redesigned a business for, and it was designed to allow her to work 10 hours a week, 20 hours while she's setting it up, 10 when she's done setting it up. And they're like, that's even possible? Yeah. Yes, we designed it. That was what she wanted. She's like in her 60s. She's checking off bucket list things, traveling and all over the place. She wanted downtime into her business. So we designed it that way to incorporate that. So yes, of course, absolutely, there's ways to do it. But it's also incredibly important. You will see so many successful entrepreneurs talk about this. It is incredibly important to clock out, right? That is why we get so many ideas in the shower. It's why we get so many ideas at the gym. It's why we get so many ideas when we're on a walk. We need to get away from all of the stuff from the echo chamber that is our business and go to somewhere else. We need to physically move ourselves into a place where we clock out.
You brought up the business, which is important because especially in the earlier stages, we and the business are kind of one and the same, but we have to understand, but we have to treat the business as a separate entity, because eventually that's the goal, right? And your business also has a flow state. Your business, you have a flow state, people have a flow state, but the business has a flow state too. And when the business is out of flow is when it is out of money or you're out of the capacity to grow. You're stuck at a certain level, like you don't have enough leverage. Either you don't have money or you don't have leverage. Either way, that's an indication that the business itself is out of flow.
Clarify leverage for the people who don't understand.
That's what happens.
Clarify leverage, because most people understand like it's out of money. That's pretty straightforward to understand. But what do you mean by leverage problem?
Leverage means you're well, in a business sense, you are not able to, you're out of time and your profit. Leverage affects your time and your profit. And there's only two ways to create leverage, and that's through people and systems and processes. So just to break it down and make it simple, those are the two ways to create leverage. You got to hire people, but in order to hire people, the most efficient way is to have the systems and processes in place to make that more efficient, which means now you can create more time and money. So leverage is the side that gives you the profit. Leverage is the side that gives you your time back. What happens with most of us, most entrepreneurs, if they have a leverage problem, they go create something to bring in more money. That's not going to solve it. What you're going to do is break the leverage even more because what you need is leverage. You don't need creating more stuff to sell, because now your people and your systems don't support it.
Yeah.
So you have to focus. So when you're building a business, you have to realize, when is it time to create a product or create something that's going to bring in more money? And when is it time to create something that's going to free up my time and allow me to scale and create, increase my profits, increase my capacity to serve?
Yeah.
And you have to apply a different strategy depending on what that is.
Yeah. Yeah, because like if we're looking at like an entrepreneur's timeline, which is what we're kind of talking about, right? Most people, they are the only thing they sell in the beginning. They hit a point where they're like, I'm out of time. I'm not making enough money for my time. Or maybe I am making a lot of money, but it's not worth sacrificing all this time for. They kind of go back to ground and decide we're going to redesign some things and maybe relaunch some products, take some products off the table so that they're like, I want to make something. Usually like they'll launch group programs or they'll create courses or they'll do something that is like, I can help more people with less of my time. And that's kind of what they're looking for, is to reclaim their time. So they redesign for that. Then they have a get more clients problem, because now we have more stuff. So now they go focus on getting more clients. Now they have money, they have clients, they have a marketing machine that's working, but now their time is gone again, which is what Victoria is talking about. And then they end up turning around and focusing internally on the systems and the processes and the like, this thing shouldn't take me 10 hours. It should only be taking 4. Why is this thing taking somebody 6 hours when normally we've done it in 3? Right now you're starting to improve operationally to reclaim your time, your team's time. You're adding team members, right? That's usually how that goes. And then at some point you start replacing yourself in the higher functions of your business, because now your team's running everything. Your marketing and sales is working. Clients are happy and you're not needed as much. So now you're starting to like function in a higher capacity. It's usually when you'll see people go write their book or go start speaking more or go do things like that to get them out of the business because the business is running, right? And they'll replace their decision-making capabilities, their higher functions within the business, so they can go do more of that. And so that's usually the path that we're on. When entrepreneurs fight that, that's when problems happen. When they're like, oh, I don't need to, I've got all the clients we could need. My marketing's working great and I'm hiring team members, but I didn't improve the processes. Now I'm just throwing people at a scale problem with products that aren't designed to scale, no processes in place to do it, right? Like we're fighting the natural order of things, and it breaks. And it causes what Victoria is talking about, that like loss of leverage.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think most, when I taught that, it was like, because most don't know that you have to, when you're going from one level of a business to the next, you have to change strategies, and sometimes there's you have a value. There's a time to create something that's going to bring in more money. Then there's the time to create something that's going to create more leverage. And you go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It's like shifting the gears in a car. I'm dating myself, but I learned to drive on a 5-speed. And I am, I feel pretty cool about that, because hardly anybody knows how to drive them anymore. Anywho, but you have to shift gears, and each gear takes you, only is going to take you to a certain level. When I learned this concept, when I learned, my dad was talking about how first gear is the strongest gear, because it has to move the car from a starting the vehicle from what's the
full stop.
It has to move the car. It has to get the car. It's one thing when the car is already in motion, when it has momentum, but to move it from a stop position, it has to be the strongest. But guess what? That's why a lot of businesses fail, because that first gear is harder. You got to do all of this stuff in the early stages. You got to set up all of this stuff. You got to learn that first gear. You're really focusing on growth and value and all of this stuff. You're not really focusing on leverage because you got no money. There's nothing to leverage, really. I mean, there is, I won't say there's nothing.
It's just your time. You're leveraging your time.
It is the priority at that particular time.
Yeah.
But then from zero, but it's going to get you, first gear is probably going to get you to, before you start burning out that gear, you're going to
20K months, 20K.
Well, yeah, but like I said,
Then you got to
you're
shift.
not going to get more than 10 miles an hour before it's going to be like, and then you
Uh-huh.
have to switch and you go to second gear and you're like, okay, let me do, it gives you a little bit. And then the third gear, and then it's coming from that stage to the next stage and the next stage. And then you start, in that fifth gear, sixth gear, depending on what car you got, then you're sailing.
Yeah.
But you've
It's almost
switched
like we see
gears.
this all the time.
It's when you
It's almost like we're supposed to be on campus right now to be available to the students.
Huh?
Yeah, true. We are supposed to be on campus right now. We were a little late, so we went over a little bit here.
What time it is? Yeah. Okay, so alrighty. It was
It's
fun.
that kind of day, y'all. This is real life.
Victoria, I like that you were talking about shifting gears and learning how to drive on that and equating it to entrepreneurship, because if we add an extra layer to that, how you learn how to drive the stick shift will impact how much enjoyment you get out of it. Because if you're learning to drive a stick shift with someone who's screaming at you, you're not going to have a good time. But if you learn how to drive a stick shift with somebody who's like, okay, that's great. Okay, let's try this. Okay, let's do that. You're going to enjoy the process, right? That's the mindset aspect of it is, enjoy every step, learn how to celebrate, because celebrating is a skill that you have to develop just along with driving and reading and writing and all those things. If you're not just going to hit a milestone and all of a sudden know how to celebrate yourself, you have to do that at every step of the way.
That's why you should join the academy, because we'll celebrate with you.
Yeah.
Wow, that was an hour. That flew by. I love this. I love our comments kind of wrapping in. But yeah, Neuro-Spicy-Academy.com, right? It's kind of like we've maybe seen people do this before, bunches and bunches and bunches and bunches, and we learned how to figure out how to make it better. Crazy, right? So all three of us are heading over to campus right now for a group Q&A. I know Melanie's got some other stuff, so she might not be there the whole time. But we're heading over to campus right now for everybody who's in the academy. For everybody who's not, go join Neuro-Spicy-Academy.com and then come see us on campus.
Yeah.
Bye, guys. We'll be back next week. Happy